This is freebasslures.com. Today we are going to talk about how to read lake maps. The reason you should learn how to read lake maps is so you can catch big bass like this. We will be covering Annabessacook Lake of Maine as an example. We use fishing hotspots for our maps. Every map should have a legend that specifies the depth breakdown of the lake by color and other important information as well. To understand lake depth, the closer the lines are to each other, the steeper the slope. Lines that are farther apart means it gradually slopes. As I quickly look over the map, the first thing I want to key on is the bottom structure of the lake. I am primarily looking for 6 things: flats, spawning areas, points, underwater humps, channels, and ledges that are all near deep water access. After I have identified all those areas, then I go out on the water and look for cover on each spot. I also use my sonar to have a closer look at the bottom. Now, looking at my map again, I take the info I gathered about the cover, and now I want to narrow the spots down to prime areas. A prime area is a spot that has at least 3 of the 6 structure elements I mentioned earlier, and some type of cover, whether it be rocks, weeds, wood, or anything else. Let's look at some of these prime areas. Because of the location of this point in the main basin, bait fish come to this point on their migration route. This point has a fairly quick slope on both sides and a deeper slope on the right side, which is close to deep water. This is an ideal prime location for bass during any season of the year. Bass can easily suspend when inactive and come shallow when they feed. During the spawn, they may head to a spawning area just off the left or right of this map. This is an underwater hump that a person would not find without a map or sonar. Small hills like this one can be home for many big bass. It's close to deep water and in between feeding areas on both sides. This particular hill rises to 10 feet deep with a fairly steep ledge. This hill may be good all year round. This is one of the top prime areas on this lake. It has almost everything a bass wants: deep water, ledges, flats, spawning areas, rocks, and weeds. This area is on the main route of bass migration between the 2 streams of the lake. It is also a main area for bait fish because the main current of the lake also goes right by this area. This area may be good all year long. This channel is another top prime area. The depth of the channel is between 5 and 17 feet with tons of lily pads and weeds. This is an inlet into the lake where bait fish can be found in abundance. However, during winter, the bait fish and bass vacate the channel and head to deeper water out in the main lake. When spring comes, the bass stage on the edge of the flat, then move into the channel from late spring into fall. This area is also a flat and spawning area if the water is high enough. This is where I caught that 6.31 pound bass you saw earlier in this video. Flats and spawning areas are very important to bass. They feed often on flats, and of course during spring they go shallow to spawn. The best spawning areas are always near deeper water access that have good staging ledges and slopes. For you shallow fishing anglers, the least desirable bass areas are straight shores and flats with no cover, such as weeds or trees. The real keys in finding desirable bass areas is finding irregular contour structure, and the more contour there is either vertically or horizontally, the better. Bass are attracted to these areas a lot more than straight banks with no cover. Another key to finding lunkers is to know where the majority of bass are during seasonal transition periods. In winter, most bass are in their deep water homes. During the pre-spawn stage, bass move up to the ledges and slopes next to spawning areas. During the spawning period, most all bass moves into the shallows. In summer, most of the bass move back into deeper water. Come fall, bass move into ledges, back of creeks, coves, and into the shallows to feed for the upcoming winter. As I close, here are the top 10 areas that could hold a lunker bass. Watch carefully and see if you can pinpoint why you could find a big bass in each spot.